Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and today we're going to continue trying to unravel the mystery that Epinoy is laying out for us, that is coinciding with all the craziness that we're seeing in the world right now. Some of the stuff that comes to me, that falls into my lap and all that, it can come like unexpectedly. And I have to try and figure this stuff out just as everyone else does. Like, why are you showing me this now? The only way that we were able to kind of figure things out as we go along is to do the daily videos and to share what she's showing to me pretty much every day, like what things I'm being drawn to, what things are falling into my lap, what things are popping into my head. The only thing is like we keep getting hung up on the time issue, because I keep thinking back to like what Dick Algar said that I put in one of the previous videos when he was explaining remote viewing. And it's like, once you get out of this space into consciousness, time works differently. Meaning, like, there kind of like isn't time. It's a completely different space. So it makes it very difficult for us to pinpoint why we're seeing the signs when we see them and trying to calculate when they might actually manifest. Sometimes they manifest within the signs that are happening in this linear timeline, like astrology and stuff like that. Sometimes they don't. But we usually don't find out why we got those signs until we travel a little bit further forward. So there's a lot of variables in this. I keep getting the exact same answers, regardless of like what divination method I use, that like all this stuff is happening soon. But like I was talking to a friend earlier, and like he pointed out, like, man, I feel like there's a couple examples of this I could think of from movies, but it's not popping in my head right now. Like, soon to Epinoia might mean something different than soon to me, which she's looking at the grand scale of things, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, in the grand scale of things, it is soon, but does soon mean the same thing to her that it means to me? That's the problem. That's the problem. And that's why we just got to be ready for anything that does happen. But she's popping this scene into my head right now from the first Avengers movie.
Is that really a priority right now?
Until such time as the world ends, we will act as though it intends to spin on.
There's definitely movement. There's definitely movement when you start to see a lot of stuff where the signs that she is showing is kind of reflecting in what's going on in the outer world. But some of the stuff that's coming up today is stuff that we've generally kind of like steered away from in the past, because a lot of people just weren't kind of like ready for that. There are very big names out there that have been talking about this stuff for years, and go further back, like David Icke. And yeah, he just got freaking lambasted by the enforcers. The mockery, you know, when you see the whole machine come into action, and like people are writing articles and people are posting things and all that stuff. Like, whenever you see that enforcement apparatus go into action and cluster around something and start ridiculing it and all that, then that is a really good indication of where there's smoke, there's fire. And she's been bringing David Icke up a lot lately, which I haven't reviewed any of his stuff in a very, very long time. But now that I'm starting to refresh on some of it, I'm like, you know what's crazy is, like, kind of ended up in the same general space. We might use slightly different words sometimes, and he might go a little bit further out with explaining consciousness than I do. But for the most part, it kind of ends up in the same place, and that's probably because things that I've heard him say, he's definitely tapped into epinoia too. He just might understand it a little bit differently. Like I said, the divine feminine, spirit of truth, and all that stuff, she can wear a lot of different masks. It's the best way that I can describe it. So if you have your own little certain framework that you're familiar with, that you like it could be the same thing behind it. It could be the same thing behind it. But I'm going to show you this weird stuff that came to me in the last day or so, just so we can document it. Not draw any freaking conclusions about it, but it's interesting because it'll start off as like one little thing that pops in my head, and maybe I just post it on Facebook in private group or something like that. But then something else pops up, and then something else pops up, and then something connected to the first thing pops up. So then you start to see a pattern emerging. And the one thing that connects all of it, insofar as I can see, that we mentioned in the last video, is, you know, the words apocalypse and revelation. Basically both mean unveiling, revealing. That's how you know you're close to the end, is when the veil starts to drop. Meaning people become more aware, things become more obvious, and maybe ideas that were once mocked and ridiculed suddenly don't seem so silly. And then to have matching synchronicities to those things that she's popping into your head start showing up in the TV shows that just aired, and you're like, there it is again. It's like, so we got to talk about it. We won't draw conclusions about it, but we got to talk about it. So this is going to be another like tinfoil hat rabbit hole type video. So if you want to know more, don't go away. All right, we're going to start off with this clip from a David Icke talk. I don't know how many years ago it was. I know I've seen it years ago, but it's about a 7-minute clip in which he's talking about the archons and also making a lot of different connections between a lot of different things. And when I rewatched this clip, I mean, there are a couple things that like, I don't know I 100% agree with you about, but like I haven't read the entire Nag Hammadi. I've only read, like, it's a big ass book. Like I've only read the things that she's drawn me to. So it is possible that some stuff might be in books that I have not read, and that's where he's getting it from. But listening to him at this point, it makes it clear like why some of the stuff that we do matters. And then from there, we'll connect it into the more recent stuff that she's been showing me. So I'll interject a couple points during this video when I need to.
These entities I'm talking about are talked about and mentioned in every ancient society under different names. And these are interesting to me. This is what they're called by some Central American shaman, the flyers, just a name. We have the demons in Christianity. We have the archons, that is the name for these entities of the Gnostic belief and the Gnostic writings from like 2,000 years ago, around that period and later. And the Islamic jinn. Because the way all of these entities or phenomenon are described is precisely the same in effect. They're different names for the same thing. And The archons, as the Gnostics called them, were said to be made from luminous fire. The jinn from Islamic and pre-Islamic Arabia was said to be made of smokeless fire. And when you look at what's said about it, they're talking about the same force, the same phenomenon. So what is it? The Gnostics are very, very interesting. Gnostic coming from a word meaning knowledge. Whenever Gnostic thinkers showed any sign of getting their point across and circulating their knowledge and their beliefs, they were slaughtered. I mean, that is just a constant. The Cathars that were slaughtered in southern France, ending up on the castle of Montségur in 1244, they were Gnostic thinkers. The people that ran the great Library of Alexandria with its 500,000 scrolls of ancient knowledge which the Roman Church destroyed, they were Gnostic thinkers. And as a result of this, very little Gnostic writing has made it through what we call history. But then in 1945, a place called Nag Hammadi in Egypt, a sealed jar of Gnostic writings was found hidden. And from that has come a fantastically greater understanding of what the Gnostics were talking about. These were mystics. They went out into other levels of reality. In many ways, we call them shaman today, many of them. This is what they talk about in these writings. They talk about the Lord Archon, or what they call the Demiurge, and the Archons that serve the Demiurge and the Lord Archon, as they call him. And they relate this to the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God. They also relate it, in effect, to what people call Satan or the devil as well. They say that these archons created the physical universe that we see, but not the earth, the sun, or the moon. And it's interesting that those three bodies have tremendous connections geometrically and mathematically, which none of the other planets do. Anyway, Archon means prince, ruler, authorities, and it has the connotation also of being from the beginning, because the Gnostics said that actually from the beginning of this solar system that we see and experience, they have been here because they were actually the creators of it, apart from those bodies I'm talking about. They talk about the Demiurge being a fake god that created the physical material reality that we perceive. And they talk about these entities being inorganic, like cyborgs, like robotic. And these writings are about 1,600 years old, a bit more maybe, and yet they knew that in terms of the relationship between the Earth and the rest of the solar system, the Earth was alive and organic, and the rest of the solar system was basically not alive and inorganic. How did they know that? Because they were able to get out there and were very, very knowledgeable. And that's why they were attacked by that which didn't want that knowledge circulating. This, in effect, is very much the feeling of what they describe as an Archon world, because the Archons have no creativity as humans do, and therefore their world is stark and ugly and uniform. This is another wonderful symbolic picture of an Archon world, an Archon reality. And that's because these writings say they have no, I think the direct translation is no intentionality. I put it another way, no creative imagination. And the writings from best part of 2,000 years ago make it clear that they envy humans who have this creative imagination, the ability to create. Like I say, they describe the Archons as cyborgs, a robotic race that can imitate but not innovate. They call it, in a translated word, counter-mimicry. Put simply, if you gave them a blank sheet of paper, they would know what to do with it. But you give them a sheet of paper rather with something on it, with something created on it, and they are able to distort it and twist it. But they can mimic and imitate, they cannot create in that sense. Interestingly, they also use the word fantasia. And in that sense, what they're saying is that these archons, jinn, different names, but I'll use the word archon as a consistent, have the ability to create fake realities, to distort reality, counter mimicry, to give people the view or the feeling of a perception that seems real but isn't. Mind parasites, they possess the mind and influence the mind in a negative way, particularly in a negatively emotional way. The one word they say that can absolutely describe the archons is deception. And also they say that one of their great means of operation, modus operandi, is to invert everything. That's what they're doing, counter-mimicry. They are inverting what is already created so it becomes something else. And it's no accident that one of the great forces that worship these archons within human society, what we call Satanism, use inversion as part of its symbolism. The inverted cross, the inverted five-pointed star. And so I've used this quote before in talks, and from this archontic perception, it becomes even more relevant. Michael Elner, who said, just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Universities destroy knowledge. Governments destroy freedom. The major media destroy information. And religions destroy spirituality. Everything inverted.
As I was saying, like the one key thing that brings it all together is this whole apocalypse unveiling, lifting of the veil thing toward the end of the game. That is the thing that pretty much has to happen for everybody, so far as I understand it. It's the key thing. Everyone is going to have to come to realize that the world that you grew up in was pretty much, bullshit for the most part. Like, you're going to see how this all works. Like, some of us, like Gnostics and stuff like that, we already know a great deal about how it works. And other people are still, they resist the uncomfortable feeling that comes with, dealing with change. Like, reality isn't the way that I thought it was. Or the way things work in the world isn't the way I thought it was. Like, all these people that talk about these weird things, in the end up being right. And that's a tough transition, because that mechanism that David I talked about, that I've been talking about, the enforcers, like, it's always going to be there. Don't say that. Don't think that. That's crazy. That's crazy. Defer to authority. Defer to authority. You're crazy if you think that. Don't look at that. Here, we've got as many explanations as you need to go back to sleep. All you got to do is believe any one of these articles we wrote to explain it, and then you can go back to sleep and you can forget it all. But closer you get to the end, the more they pull the veil back, because it's part of it. Part of it is figuring out where you are, where it works, who you are in this whole thing. And that's what we're leading into. We have to be, because she would have never had me talk about this type of stuff before. So what are some of the things that she's been popping into my head? One thing worth noting, since I document everything, there is a lot of resistance that I feel the closer I get to these kinds of topics. I might not have the adversary mind anymore, but I'm still in a body. And if you understand the Gnostic scriptures, like the body is a containment, its sole purpose is to cut you off from spirit and things like that. That doesn't mean it can't do other things if you're like revealing secrets and stuff like that. So I find like when I'm talking about certain things, especially lately, I struggle with my words. Like you might notice it in my talking, like when I'm even doing this video, it's harder to get the words out. It's harder to get them out cleanly. And I also start getting really tired. Like it's like, I don't want to talk about this, just lay down. I'm not thinking that, but it's like that's what I'm feeling. That's what my body, that's the signals my body is sending. It's like it's trying to interfere with me. I'm not able to think as clearly and speak as clearly as normally, which is kind of messing with the message, so to speak. So that's why I'm wearing this thing, and I did some other stuff, but like this is like a really noticeable, like, don't talk about this sort of feeling. It just makes me want to, like right now, I just want to turn the camera off and lay down and take a freaking nap. And it's weird because I'm all charged up, you know, earlier when I'm getting all this information, when she's compiling all this information, but when it's time to talk about this information, my words start getting muddled and I start getting tired. It's harder for me to make these connections. But the biggest thing about, well, not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that David Icke was talking about there is like, the system works really hard to keep us fighting with one another. That's why the system's been set up the way that it is. Like in politics, you got the two-party system, which is going to come up in a second. Then you've got all these different identities. They're constantly, here's a way to identify yourself. Here's a way to identify yourself. Here's a way to identify yourself. And the fun things about all these different identities and ways to identify yourself with is they come with built-in enemies. Like if you identify with this, then these people are your enemy. If you identify as that, then these people are your enemy. And everybody that is like a true person, a true soul, needs to wake up and not be enemies with everybody else. Realize that there is a bigger enemy, and its whole goal is to split us apart. It's just like the Tower of Babel. That's what's popped into my head in the Bible. Everybody was working together in the Tower of Babel story, and they started building something to reach up to where the rulers were, and the God at that time was like, yeah, I'm not having this, so I'm going to muddle your brains up and you're all going to start speaking different languages so you can't talk to one another. And in all the years since then, it just keeps getting bigger, like more and more ways to divide humans. Divide them into countries, divide them into races, divide them into political categories. You know, what your interests are, what you like to do in the bedroom, like all that stuff. It's like 1,000 different ways to split people apart, and the more of those identities that you paste on yourself, the more you're split off from everybody else. And that's how the system is constantly beating us, because we are not all together. We're like a collection of individuals. It's actually real, like this game that we're in is extremely difficult, but you can see it. And one of the biggest ways that, you know, on the surface that they divide us is through politics. And as we've said 1,000 times on this channel, if it's authority, it's not your friend. It does not matter if you put a sticker on your shirt that says, I'm with this team. The authority still views you as a dumb, obedient sheep that is actually going to help further its cause. It's specifically designed that way. Now, one side may favor a certain group of people, and another side may favor another group of people, and like this is all too big and philosophical to spell out. But the bottom line is, If it's authority, it's not your friend. And like David Icke said in that video, the key word when it comes to what rules the world is deception. Deception on the inside, deception on the outside. You got things installed in your mind that is there to deceive you, to do all the stuff we've detailed before, make you think thoughts, make you imagine things that aren't there, and then react to them. And then there's stuff on the outside that is very, very similar, that's trying to do the same thing through propaganda and politics and TV and all that crap. And everybody's got to come to a point in which they don't trust anything outside of themselves. You need to trust what is inside of you. That connection, that epinoia inside of you is the only thing you can freaking trust, especially the closer we are to the end. But the other thing that is pertinent when it comes to like a Gnostic explaining things is it can get a little confusing because we're constantly shifting between all these different viewpoints. You've got the personal subjective experience, and we might be talking about the inner world, we might be talking about the outer world, we might be talking about what the archons, the rulers of this world, what their plans are. But then we can also see a higher perspective of like, look, there's something greater than all of us looking down, and that thing is actually puppeting these things down here, which are puppeting us, so that we have the experiences and the challenges and the trials to evolve. It's maddening. I know everybody wishes we could just live in a simple world where everything was what we thought, what we think it is, and we could just live. Everybody wants that, but that's not where we are. Like, that will come later. And the more you see, the more you look forward to like getting out of here. That's where I've been. And it's like all the signs are there, but I don't want to get too attached to that, so I don't have to overcome disappointment and be like, nope, it's going to go on a little bit longer. Nope, it's going to go on a little bit longer. I don't know. I truly hope and pray that we can get out of here soon. And if I was able to just take my brain and put it in a video so that you could see everything all at once, you would understand why. But it is what it is. So in regards to that two-party system, like the primary way that they split us up, everyone has talked about at one point or another how the Simpsons show tends to predict the future. So what is one of the biggest things that the Simpsons have shown that has not happened yet, that is relevant to things that are going on now and things that have been coming up through the language lately? Well, that would be this scene right here.
The politics of failure have failed. We need to make them work again. Tomorrow, when you are sealed in the voting cubicle, vote for me, Senator Bob Dole.
I am looking forward to an orderly election tomorrow, which will eliminate the need for a violent bloodbath. America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles. It's true. We are aliens. But what are you going to do about it? It's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of us.
He's right. This is a two-party system.
Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
All hail President Kane!
I don't understand why we have to build a ray gun to aim at a planet I never even heard of.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Go!
Now, the reason something like that might be so hard to accept is because for decades, the voices of the enforcers and the embedded defer to authority programming and normalcy bias, we've got all these things working in concert. The voice of all those things put together is louder than the voices of those who might see something and speak up and point it out. Plus, we live in a day and age where now we can fake all sorts of stuff with our technology. So it's easier for people to just assume that anything odd and unusual that they see online, well, it must be fake. It must be. People that are like Gnostic types, have the light in them, truth seekers, stuff like that. I have found when people become comfortable and I can get into a conversation with them, that more people than not have personally experienced very weird things that they oftentimes keep to themselves because they assume that people will not believe them, or they will ridicule them, or all sorts of stuff. So that's one of the big secrets about this place, is we all see stuff. We all experience stuff. But at the same time, we automatically assume no one else is going to believe us. There's some stuff like that with me. You know, I've said recently when I talk about these 3 different types of people, material people, it's like there is a percentage, I think if I remember correctly, the number she gave me is like 15%, which still was close to like 2 billion people are not like us. And I know a lot of people that are like me that have noticed these people before. And I know a lot of people that have bought like my Aegis pendants, which are very, very repelling to that type of stuff, that have seen and encountered people react to them strangely when they were wearing that pendant. I remember one guy telling me like he had some lady like literally just like get up in his face and like, "What are you wearing under your shirt? What is that?" And he had an Aegis pendant under his shirt. He said she was like really creepy about it. She's like, "What is it? What is it that you got?" Because I make this stuff so freaking strong. Like its purpose is just like anything that is really, really not like you. Like I want to push it back as hard as possible. I want to disrupt it. Plus anything that might be embedded in you, in your mind or your programming or your body or anything like that, we want to shut that down and suppress it too. But I've got lots of stories of people over the years where they're wearing those types of anti-negativity pendants that have specific programming in them, and now that they're charged with that her divine energy, which we know that too repels things. Put all those things together, and like you'll very quickly smoke out people that might be very near to you that like aren't quite like you. But is it fair to say we know what this is? No. We can only just kind of piece things together. Everyone's got different ideas. Everyone's got different labels, all this stuff. But if you want to find the highest concentration of them, it's going to be in areas of authority. Areas of authority, government, media, especially media. Oh, media. Legal system, somewhat the military, education system, anything that leads to tell you what you can and cannot think or what you can and cannot do. Like that's where you're going to find the greatest concentration of these types of people. But you'll also encounter them walking around. You'll find them in lower level places too. You'll find them all throughout church. Because you want to know the other big secret about where these things congregate? They congregate in places that are going to ensnare people who are waking up, who are starting to begin their spiritual awakening. So, and I know it might, my description might fit some of you, so like this is not like an absolute, painting with a wide brush here, but I have experienced over time this to be true, is you will find them in crystal metaphysical shops, energy workers, churches, anywhere where people start seeking spirit type stuff. Like they want to catch you, like they want to have their little honeypot people in there. And there's a lot of people that teach spiritual wisdom type stuff even on YouTube that are honeypots. That's why we're like, look, you need to pray to the highest consciousness possible and ask it for the spirit of truth, who will live with you, live in you, will guide you, teach you, and give you the ability to discern truth from falsehood and get secret knowledge. Not listen to this guy on YouTube and then do what he says. Like, yeah, I'm talking about stuff here, but I'm not saying like I'm not your Jesus. I'm here to tell you about something that you have inside of you that will help you. It's not me. Like it matters more when you hear it from her. And that is what the system works so hard to cut you off from and keep you from finding it. Because she's the only thing that can truly pull back the veils for you. Now, in regards to that Simpsons clip, this is something I don't think I've ever talked about openly on this channel before, because it feels like I'm getting into areas that are like, eesh. Because like David Icke said in that video, what happened to the Gnostics?
Whenever Gnostic thinkers showed any sign of getting their point across and circulating their knowledge and their beliefs, they were slaughtered. I mean, that is just a constant.
They got slaughtered. You know, in the biggest collection of like truth and wisdom and all the secret stuff, the Library of Alexandria, who burned it down? Remember that part? Like, lots and lots of effort has been done to stamp out Gnostics. Like, it's like having a target on the back of your freaking head. But she is higher than the stuff that's putting the target on the back of your head. So she can bust through things. And if you need to see things, she can lead you to it. So that's kind of the hard part about this. But the reason we keep trying to tell you that authority is not your friend is because people are still used to living the way they've been living and the way they were taught. They still like to rally behind political sides. Like, oh, this is my side. Like, my head is still exploding to see people in my friends list that are spiritual people that still lean so far left that they're now like posting positive memes about Kamala Harris. Like, this person is awful. Like, some of the stuff, well, what about Trump? I didn't tell you to vote for Trump, but I'm just saying, it's like propping somebody up just because it's like your side when they're awful makes no sense to me. And when it comes to Trump, here's my problem with Trump. And one of these I didn't put it in any video, but I saw it. Somebody that was pointing out a bunch of stuff, and I feel exactly the same way he does. He's like, I feel more threatened than by any of the other things because he's now in a perfect position. He is like the savior of humanity. He's invoking, you know, providence. You know, I was saved by God. And they thought I was dead, and I stood up and raised my hand and showed him I'm still, like, he's invoking like this Jesus thing. And as another person rightly said in a video, they're like, look, if they really wanted him dead, he'd be dead. They wouldn't send some imbecile freaking incel with a rifle. I know you gotta have a patsy and all that stuff, but it's like if they wanted him to be dead, like if it was anybody else, if it wasn't somebody that was on center stage for the masses, you know, like some of the famous singers and stuff like you've heard about that like try to expose things. Like if they want somebody dead, they can make them dead. They have the tech to do that. I think they just point this thing at you and you'll have a heart attack. So all that stuff was theater. And it's like, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, well, I go by what she shows me. As uncomfortable as it might be. So let's first show you a couple different types of technology that they've been fooling you with for some time. So let's first show a fictional example of that from a movie from the 80s called The Running Man.
Roll start. Freeze in digital memory. And
Activate traveling map. Tony, this better work, pal, or you'll be a digital memory.
take it easy, Damon. We're loading Richard's image onto the database, and when he's mapped onto the stunt double, you'll never know the difference. All right, boys. Let's see you dance.
Sensational. I love it.
Now, anytime anything weird gets spotted in video and it starts going viral, the machine will kick in and there will be endless articles written about this crazy conspiracy theory, and they'll have an explanation for anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Oh, you obviously don't understand mechanical engineering of photography equipment and digital blah blah blah. There's always going to be an explanation. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if it's right or not, but there will always be an explanation. That's how it works. So I'll show you like the most recent thing. Now, I think you can still pretty much see all this stuff in the video, but I would caution you that I will try to show you as best as I can. But I have found that when you're downloading videos and then you're recompressing videos and stuff like that, a lot of the details kind of get lost. So if you really want to see this stuff, like look at the videos that I'm showing you, and then go find the original videos on YouTube and look at it there. And I guarantee you it will be more clear. But just in case, we're going to give it a shot anyway. So here is some clips. And I'll tell you ahead of time what you're looking for. Here is the video clip from last week where Joe Biden allegedly was in the Oval Office and was doing his address saying that he was stepping down from the race. Here's the things you want to look for, especially like around the hands and stuff in front. You want to look for a hard black outline. You don't notice these things unless you're actually looking for them, because you're not expecting them. You'll just tune them out. You have to be looking for them. You want to look for hard black outlines. Sometimes you'll see it like by the ears, the neck, the face. Sometimes you'll notice like where the neck meets the collar, it's like a hard black outline. And if it's a dark surface with something else behind it, it might be a bright white outline. And you see parts by the ear, like the window, like it's moving and stuff, like because of some sort of distortion. there's something under the arms, like me. You can tell I'm sitting in a chair. Where you can't see his chair, but the few times he lifts his arms, there's like this other kind of square thing. It's like, what is that? But the key thing is to look for the hard black outlines, and then also if it's some kind of AR or whatever, and you're looking closely, you can see it better on the original videos. Like, look at the watch, look at the weird stuff the watch is doing. Like, look up the sleeve. They have tech now that's years ahead of like what we have commercially, or they can just have digital models of big people in the computer, and they can put all the words and all the sounds and all this stuff in there and just generate this image that looks like the person sitting there talking. And the only way you're going to notice something is up is if you look to see if they have like these outlines, because I've been making videos for over 10 years in all sorts of indoor and outdoor conditions, and I never have hard black outlines around me. So let's watch this clip here, see what you can see. You might want to check the original source material yourself later, but then we'll look at a couple other ones.
Much a cause of American democracy itself must unite to protect it. You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. But there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence, our planet from climate crisis that is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. And I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform, because this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong and secure and the leader of the free world. I'm the first president in this century to report to the American people that the United States is not at war anywhere.
Could you see it? Now, if you couldn't, I would say pull it up on YouTube, like the original one, not the one that I had to download and recompress and all that stuff, and do what I was doing in the video and look again. So make it full screen, and then zoom it in a little bit, and then while you're watching the video, you can kind of move the picture around and zoom in closer to things. But I see it really strong around the hands, the hard black outlines. This is stuff that Epinoy showed me like 4 or 5 years ago. It's like, look at this, focus on this right here. Do you see it? I'm like, holy crap. So this is the part that's going to make everybody uncomfortable, because nobody wants to. The reason why this will make people uncomfortable is because this is the outside person. Like, this is the person that's supposed to save us all. But here's the thing. This was the first clip she ever showed me this stuff in. And you might not see it right away, but what you want to look for, especially when the camera angle changes, is you want to look around where the jawline and the neck meets the white collar. Like that's your target focus area. Secondary target focus area is going to be like the top of the shoulders. You'll see the hard white lines. But once you see it, and you might need to, like I said, you might need to watch the original video, and you want to make sure that your playback, you know, whenever you're watching YouTube videos, tap the video, see that that settings icon in the upper right. You want to click on that, make sure you're playing it back at the highest possible resolution. And then you might also want to make sure your screen brightness is up a little bit too. So you want to have the clearest picture possible. But once you see this, you're like, oh my God, like that looks like an Xbox cutscene almost. And before we get into any more of these, like I was saying earlier, like there's different perspectives to look at things at as a Gnostic. The personal subjective experience, like how the world is being controlled on the authoritarian level, and then what is driving the entire story, which is much higher. So depending on which level that you're focusing on, you can have different reactions to this type of stuff. So if you understand things from the highest point, in which that you are in this place to have this experience, and there's all these things, all these weird things in this experience that are meant to play out different scenarios and change the conditions so that you can be challenged, so that your soul can grow, then it doesn't seem so bad. You realize like this is just all part of the game. If you're looking at it from the lower standpoint of the person on the ground, then it's like, oh, now this feels a lot more scary to me because there's all these bad things that are controlling things and they're tricking us constantly. But then you got to remember, it's like, but they're being manipulated by her at a higher level. So it just depends on what level you're looking at it, whether this is a good thing, a bad thing, or an inconsequential thing. It's just part of the story. It's part of the game. But everybody looked at that assassination video and had a different reaction to it. And a lot of times that was driven by what side of the fence you're on. But either which way, I mean, okay, an idiot kid with a rifle got past an organization, a protective organization that nobody gets past, and he misses the shot by a miracle, which ends up being reflected in the artwork in iPet Goat 2, which actually ends up helping the candidate, who just happened to be pointing in the direction of a noted figure that is associated with a big conspiracy, which is connected to the White Rabbit. And then you got freaking UFOs flying overhead, and you're like, what am I supposed to make of this? You can't. But going by what Epinoy said, like this is a key event that is part of the overall story to move the plot forward. And it just depends on how you're going to look at it. Are you aware of where you are? And that none of this is actually random or real. What we said earlier, what she told us, everything is scripted. This whole world story is scripted. And it's like you can't tell the future of things unless it's already written. We just struggle with getting the timing down of like when it's going to happen. We have to look at things as they pan out. We didn't know a basic time frame from that iPet Goat 2 video until the events of the last month. Then it's like, oh, these are all in this scene, which indicates the rapture's coming up. When's that going to be? Well, we can only hope that it's within the time frame that I was led to look at. But I could be wrong. To say that I know would be a lie, because that's against the rules. We don't know. We can hope, but We don't really know. Point is like, nobody's on your side. They are, anything that happens or is allowed to happen is because something wanted it to happen. There's a higher thing going on, and it's hard to say who people really are. They're like, good guys, bad guys? Well, I don't know. Is it authority? Is it power structure? Because there's no good guys in that. But they still play the good cop, bad cop all the time because it works. Gotta have a good cop. But what do the good cop and the bad cop have in common? They're both cops. And they're both working together against the suspect, which is us. So what level do you want to look at it? Looking at it from a lower level brings fear and uncertainty. Looking at it from a higher level, it's not so bad. It's like, no, I'm just in this game and it's going to play out the way it's going to play out. It's your attachment to the world which gets you screwed up. Which, what did Jesus say? You have to disconnect your attachment to the world. Because you're kind of already unattached from it already, but you're not mentally, emotionally unattached. You have to do that. The more attached to the world story that you are, the more you're going to feel like things are out of control. They are what they are. It's just the story. You're in it. So what were some other video clips I had like that? Like, I've seen a bunch of them in the past that I don't have access to, or sometimes you can't find them. You know, normally to show people these digital artifacts, I would pull up the George Floyd arrest, the second video, not the first one. So I tried to do that, but guess what? It's not there anymore. They swapped it out with another one, and in the new one that they swapped it out for, every time these digital effects that I knew so well were so plainly obvious, they speed up the tape. And it's like, oh, can't see it now. How clever. It used to be so freaking obvious, it was ridiculous. I used to show it to people, and they're just like, once I show them what they're looking for, jaws hit the ground. And they do this all the time. You can't trust anything you see on TV. You can't. And if you continue to stay attached to the world and your identities, you're going to suffer more. What she wants to do is to wake everybody up. If you want to finish this thing and get out to a place where things are much better than you could possibly imagine, you have to play the game the way it's set up. And we're at a point now where the veil is being pulled off, and it's not what you thought it was. And it's going to continue to get weirder and stranger. You can't trust what you see on TV. Okay, I just remembered the other one. So you've got tech in which they can just create the whole person, and then they've got the second layer of tech is closer to what they showed you in The Running Man, where they could just have anybody be like the body double, and then they just digitally paste their face onto them. And of course, if you look this stuff up, you're gonna find articles that are debunking everything. They always have that. There's always gonna be a choice. Like, you can believe it, or if you want to not believe it, well, here's your articles debunking it. But just look at what your eyes are telling you and think about, how does it feel? Feeling is your biggest truth detector. That's connected to her. So this one's crazy.
All of the benefits flowing to the top 1/10 of 1%. There's never been as great a concentration of wealth, including going back to the Great Depression. Right. Ever. And so one of the things that worries me most about that, all of the benefits flowing to the top 1/10 of 1%. There's never been as great a concentration of wealth, including going back to the Great Depression. Right. Ever. And so one of the things that worries me most.
Then you got the method that people have been talking the most about lately, because a lot of this stuff, this level of mask type stuff is becoming more commercially available. But people have been noticing for years, like Joe Biden always looks different from one day to the next. So here's one clip, and if I happen to find the other clip, I'll add it in there too.
And he was a very conservative guy who was very, very...
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
African American when he got...
Holy cow.
Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you save. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one. Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you save. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one. Got a secret, can you keep?
It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Our nation.
Maybe I can find, I'm having a hard time finding it. Maybe it's been scrubbed or something like that, but someone else got a picture once where there was actually like a little square tab back there. It's like, this is some sort of mask tab. That'll become interesting here in a minute. So they'll call it conspiracies and all this stuff, but like, what do your eyes tell you? Like, the dude just constantly doesn't look the same. And then he came out the other day and everybody was commenting, it's like, does COVID make you taller? Because these pictures, like, he suddenly looks a lot taller. And if you use some comparison pictures of him next to his wife, yeah, it's like he's a different height each time. Like, this is child's play. Like, this is like Spook City child's play. They show you things like Mission Impossible movies. Like, that was like one of their key things, was being able to make these masks and fool people. And they had it in Marvel movies too. Which one was that? Captain America the Winter Soldier. Scarlett Johansson had a mask, and they could put little things on their throats that change their voice. You think they don't have tech like that? Trust me. Even at the level that I had access to in the military, and I would see like what they told the public about things like ships capabilities and stuff like that, it's always way more than what is publicly known. It's always been that way. So yeah, they can actually have physical masks and stuff, people playing roles and things like that. And I want to say there was one other thing. What was it? No, I'm not trying to get into all that stuff in this video, but I've watched a lot of videos and stuff because I watch all the weird stuff. I think it's interesting. They might call them like reptilian shapeshifter videos or something like that. And it's like there might be some other kind of tech that we don't even know about, where it changes the way people look, but every once in a while it glitches out, and it's weird. Like, some of these videos kind of show the same kind of glitches. And if you watch enough of these videos, sometimes you'll see people start glitching out, and then other people will go like surround them, kind of like cover it up or signal them to, like, my illusion field's failing. Got to turn that back on because I'm starting to see these big teeth and things like that. It's hard to miss because I've seen things like that, like with my eyeballs.
Fuck off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the fuck off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two f***, but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can fucking die with them or not. I'm not going to.
Incensed it in people. I've caught it in movies. Like it was actually just something that was filmed in the movie. I just happened to freeze frame it at the exact second, and it's like I could see two sets of eyes on somebody, and that had nothing to do with the movie. It was just something that happened, and I happened to catch it. Like, what the hell? It's freaking nuts. It's freaking nuts. But it all jives with what the Gnostic books teach. See, we operate very differently from religion, where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about all these things, but then once we leave church, we're just going to act like none of it really exists. Where in the Gnostic path, you learn about this stuff so that you understand the world, not to just think, interesting thoughts while you're in church. No, it's teaching you about the actual world. So it's always been there, but the conditioning and conditioning, propaganda, the enforcers, the ridicule, the debunking articles, people see that and they're like, okay, good. Because subconsciously it makes them uncomfortable.
Come here. It's time for a little comfort dentist meeting. Your parents were right, your teachers were right, even that creepy scoutmaster with the tight brown shorts was right. TV is slowly rotting your brain and turning it into a slimy, gooey, mushy blob of pudding, and there's nothing you can do about it. See? I just told you what was happening, and you're still watching TV. Amazing. But this whole slowly part is getting to be a real problem. Well, guess what? Hulu. We built Hulu to pump thousands of hours of free TV right into the one screen you drag around everywhere. Hence... Now I need you to take your stubby little human fingers and hit this button on Hulu. Then you can share those TV shows in your bliggity blogs and your facey spaces and your tweety pages for all your bookwormy anti-boob-to-be friends. So here's the deal. Help us churn their finely cultured skull beef down to the aforementioned pudding, and we'll slurp out yours last. Eh? Yeah, because we're aliens. And you ain't soup yet.
Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
Because if you accept that there's something going on that we're not saying we know, but like, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on, and if you admit that something's going on, it's the same thing as admitting that the world that you thought you knew isn't what you thought it was. And everyone goes through different levels of cognitive dissonance, and it's tricky. It's exactly like Morpheus explained in The Matrix. We generally do not free a mind after it has reached a certain age, because the mind has a hard time letting go. It's too much of a mental shock or trauma. But sometimes it's like, it's better to introduce these things now than to get to a point in which the veil completely drops and you get that shock all at once. Like, that would be very, very mentally and emotionally taxing. I know there's people that aren't like other people, that aren't like me, because I've encountered tons of them. I can sense them before I see any kind of behavioral or visual cues about it. But usually you can find something if you're looking for it, if you suspect somebody, like on the ground level, and they take enough selfies of themselves and put them on Facebook, and you know what to look for. There might be 1 out of 50, but when you find it, you're like, there it is. That's what I suspected. Someday I'll have to teach you how to see like spirits and stuff in pictures in a way that has never been shown on any ghost hunter show, because they don't know about it. The only reason I know about it is because somebody who was not like me, but was strangely kind of neutral friendly, taught me about it and showed me how to see it. And once I saw it, I'm like, holy crap, that is crazy, because it always looks the same. I'll talk about that in another video. But that's how you see actual archonic spiritual type stuff in pictures. It's not like glowing orbs or things like that. It's hidden in the pixels. You just have to know how to look at it. So when Epinoia is unveiling things, there will be some very strange synchronicities. It's like, how is it that she was just talking about something and then some TV show happened to show the same thing? And not just any TV show, but a TV show that just aired. So that happened again last night. So in the last short video that I posted, I posted a couple scenes from the latest episode of Evil on Paramount Plus. Because what have we been talking about lately? The storm is coming. The storm, the storm, the storm. So I go to watch that new video last night, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So the episode was titled How to Survive a Storm. And they're getting all the alerts in there. It's like, it's coming, it's coming. It's like, and then the priest is like, there's a storm coming. And he's like, you know, Mother Nature is pissed, which is Sophia, she's Mother Nature. But that's not the key thing. The key thing is the other subplot that was in that show. So let me just show you this scene, and then you'll understand where it fits in.
I need you to turn around.
What?
Turn around. Face the wall.
Why?
I'll stun you if you don't. Lower your collar.
Why?
Stop asking why and do it. Why are you here?
Can I turn around?
Yes, why are you here?
What were you looking for?
Velcro-like fastener on the neck.
Why a fastener?
It's where the skin connects.
Kristen's worried you're mixing painkiller medications, and to be honest, seeing you now, I'm worried
Do you believe in demons, Doctor?
I don't know. Hey, sit down, let's talk. Cheryl, come on, please. Hey, come on. Come sit, let's talk.
What do you want?
I just need a quick sign off on an expense report, Cheryl. It'll take 5 minutes.
Go to hell.
Cheryl, you're not well. Sir, can you open the door, please?
Don't you fucking dare. Listen, why don't you give us a few minutes, sir?
I need this expense report now.
Yeah, just a few minutes. Listen to me. In my experience, it's completely normal for people to have emotional breakdowns during a hurricane. It's a psychologically intense experience, not just because of the danger, but
Go now. Now! Kurt, boost me up! No! Kurt!
And that's why I hope I can find that picture of like Biden with this little weird square tab on the back of his neck because of what was said in that scene that was just aired yesterday where she's checking his neck. She's like, oh, it's like a little tab, like that's where the skin attaches. I'm like, are we really going there? And sure as enough we did. Dude showed up and he pulled off his skin suit, and it's like, you know, what framework do you want to apply to this? You know, back in the 80s we had the original miniseries V, where we were introduced to aliens, like lizard aliens wearing human skin. Now you got this show, you got like demons wearing human skin. And there's a lot of other movies out there. Like, these things are out there for a reason. But what do we know? Can't say we know anything until we do. I could say I can sense and I've experienced people around me that were not like other people, and I've seen them react to things that I make. like something that I'm wearing is irritating them. And they're like, I don't like being around you. What is that? Well, if I tell you what it is, then we're going to have an interesting discussion, because then it's going to be like, why is it irritating you then? Yikes. But here was something else that was interesting, because she was always like, you know, minimize your screen time. I'll have to just start watching from now on. I don't know if it was something particular to this show, or if this happens a lot in other shows. I only glimpsed it when I was filming the TV, but then once I got it in the editor, I went and checked. I'm like, every time in that scene, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but every time in that scene where the camera shifts to another angle, where it splits, for about less than half a second, there's like this weird diagonal web pattern between the scenes. And something about it, like, I don't know what that is. I'm not speculating that I do, but I'm just like, what the hell is that? And why is it there? So here's some screenshots that I took. I had to put it in the editor so I could go really, really slow. Like, every time that the camera changed in that show, like, that's what it showed. It was super quick, blink and you'll miss it. I think it just stood out more because I was looking at the screen on my phone filming the TV. But it was so fast to be subliminal, almost. So my question is, what the hell is it? And why is it there? So I'd never noticed that before. In this particular show, no less. There's something strange that I captured. Don't know what it is. I haven't asked either, but thought it was interesting. Figured I'd throw that in there too. So any of this stuff, when you look at it just piecemeal, it's easy to dismiss if it makes you uncomfortable. But if you go to a higher point and you look at the big picture, and you consider everything else you already know about the world, we have rulers. There's no doubt about that. They make the rules, they enforce the rules. They tell you what you can and cannot do. In order to live in their system, you have to be a slave. You have to work. You have to earn money. And then you have to pay part of it back to them over and over and over and over again. They put stuff in our food that doesn't need to be there. They put stuff in our water that doesn't need to be there. Like, that's not even up for debate. Everyone knows what fluoride is. They spray stuff from the air. We don't know what it is. They genetically modify our food. We buy fast food made of mystery meat. We probably don't want to know what that is.
You gotta tell him.
Promise, Tiger, I promise. I'll tell the exchange.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell him. Silent Breed is people. We got.
They inject things into us all the time without telling us what it is. I mean, we just accept things because we were taught things. But it's like a healthy, a newborn healthy human baby should be fine. But they're like, oh, no, we got to give them all these shots as soon as they come out. Oh, it's vitamin C. What? Like, do we know that? Like, if you consider, like, the Gnostic, what Jesus taught about the world is true, then you can't trust anything. Like, they're always doing something. They're always making more laws, which you can and can't do. They punish you. They put you in jail. They make people go to war and fight with one another. If you really stop and think about it, nothing about this world makes sense if it was all people like you. See, I am a light from light person. That's why I have her so strong. I can't intentionally or unintentionally even hurt someone else. I can't do it because we're all connected. That's something David Icke was saying. Maybe it was in a different video, I don't remember, but he was talking about how, you know, as far as the consciousness goes and people, it's like we're all part, different aspects of a larger thing, having individual experiences, but we're all kind of, like I say, we're all plugged into her. We're all connected. So you hurt another person, another light person, it's like hurting yourself. So then who are these people that have no problem hurting others? Doing things to kids, doing things to women, making people miserable, making things hard. Like I don't know what I got to do to snap people out of this, you know, I'm picking a political side nonsense. Because what have any of them ever done to truly help people? Yeah, they do the good cop bad cop thing is the exact same thing as the pendulum. You know, the pendulum swings this way, and then when they can't take it anymore, it swings the other way. But, you know, it's still connected to the clock. They do horrible stuff, and all these big rich people, all these rulers, they're always drawing up their plans. This is what we're going to do in our new world order. You will eat the bugs and you will like it. You will own nothing and you will like it. You will live in a 15-minute city and you will like it. I mean, like, how much of this stuff do you have to look at before you start to realize, like, maybe this other thing does actually explain something. We're not all the same here.
You will eat the bugs, you will live in the pot, you will wear the mask, you will get the vaccine, you will welcome the refugee, you will celebrate Pride Year, you will watch the Hollywood movies, you will celebrate diversity, you will watch the pornography, you will consume the product, don't ask questions, get excited for next product, you will not spread anti-Semitism, you will fight white people, you will put your kid on puberty blockers, you will send your daughter to Eurovision, you will have no privacy, you will own nothing. And you will be happy.
But I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real.
And if you're truly a souled person and you don't like hurting other people, then you gotta ask, what's up with the people that get off on it? The people that want the authority jobs, that want to bully people, want to get people to submit. We've all seen them. You've seen plenty of these cop watch videos and stuff like that. What's going on there? What makes you want to do that job? What makes you want to go around and ruin people's days, ruin people's lives? Why do we have like all these almost like meme-worthy things like the ATF? You know, if the ATF comes knocking on your door, hope you don't got a dog, because they're gonna shoot it. And they shoot the dogs like even if they're not a threat. Why? Because they know that you're emotionally attached to that dog. These things want to hurt you. Look at a big enough picture and there's no way to get around it. It's exactly what the Gnostic book said. So the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Well, we can't just blah, blah, blah. Or you can do your own stuff on a lower level. And you can start figuring out who you are and why you're here and all this stuff, because this stuff only works if you go along with it. But stop picking sides. Oh, I'm going with this side because they're going to win. Or oh, I'm going with this side because they're in power. The people in power don't care about you. They don't. You are just useful idiots to them. And they know they can stir you up and, oh, be mad about this. Here, let's bust you over here and get you to protest. We're going to set up pallets of bricks to make it easier for you. Like everyone's just willingly being pawns. That's part of the world. You're not supposed to be part of the world. That's why the world hates you. That's what we just talked about. That's why I have so much problems. Jesus said, you know, the world hated me first, and if the world hates you, it's because I pulled you out of the world. you're not going to be here forever. So that's a good sign. Like if you are hated, or if the world doesn't support you, even if it's like the people that follow you or something like that, because they still have those adversary mind implants that they don't help, it's because of that. Because you got the light, you are danger, and if they can't destroy you because you're protected, then they're going to isolate you and make things as hard as possible. But that's what she wants at the higher level, because it's to grow your soul, it's to make you stronger, make you tougher. But you got to start looking at the world and accepting it for what it actually is. Because everything has been teaching you since the beginning of time that it's all illusion, it's all a trick. If you agree with authority about anything, you need to do some self-reflection. Because they don't tell you the truth about anything. They're not here to be your friends. You're cattle to them. You got one ally that's got your back, and it's inside of you. But the world does everything to prevent you from finding it. You need to find her. And you need to talk to the thing that is higher than this place, which we call the Father. You could call it the highest point of consciousness, or the God above all. Whichever. Not the God of this world, the God above all. You have to have that stuff. Because this stuff is getting weird. The veil's coming down. The sooner you get on board with the people that have the lifeboats, the better off you're going to be. Because it's going to happen one way or the other. And we don't know. We can only hope and pray, based on the clues that we're given, that some of us might actually get out before that. But I don't know that. I know that's what the clues that are coming to me indicate. But I don't know that. I can change my perspective, look down, and be like, this could be a just more strength test. Oh, told you I was going to pull you out of here, but no, I didn't. So what are you going to do? You going to collapse, or are you going to get stronger? You're going to have to get stronger. It's the only option there is. All this is to evolve you, turn you into a super soul. That's why this place is so hard. But at some point you have to wake up enough to understand that this world is frickin' nuts, crazy, and the rules of thumb she's been talking about lately stand true. Whatever authority says, assume the opposite. The things that they mock the most, where there's smoke, there's fire. So it could just be that everything that we think is impossible and weird is the actual stuff. What's actually fake is this nice, normal, la-di-da-di-da, everything's going to be perfect forever, everything's going to go back to good, just whistling through the graveyard, play the cards you're dealt, so that you can evolve and beat this thing. If it gets too overwhelming, remember what we learned from the Nag Hammadi. It said that the Archons thought they were doing everything of their own will, but they were actually being manipulated by the Holy Spirit. And in another, it's reworded in another place where it says, they think they're doing all this stuff to you, but at a higher level that they can't perceive, they're actually serving the saints. Meaning they think they're doing all this stuff to you, but it's all by the Father's will and by hers, because they're being used to make you stronger, to grow your mind, to build up the resistance. It's supposed to get uncomfortable enough to where you're like, I can't take this anymore, and you do something about it. You change, you evolve. That's the point of it. The sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be. and the more equipped you will be to process these things as the veil comes down. And you got to recognize that adversary mind. And one of the biggest things that it does is it tries to stop you by feelings of procrastination or making you tired or something like that. Like I said earlier in the video, so I get to these videos and it's like I don't want to do them. Like, oh, people are gonna freak out, or oh, I just want to lay down, I'm tired. So even though I can't hear the thoughts anymore, like that part's gone, I'm still in the body. Like the body belongs to this place. Like it is like your Iron Man suit containing your soul, and because you have to look out through it, you can only see and decode as much reality as the body is designed to see and decode. That's the trick. It is what it is. But just remember at the higher scale that they call it a contest in more than one place. And you're supposed to learn to detach from it. And you're supposed to learn to seek what is within you. But not doing anything and just like, oh, I just don't want to believe that. She's gonna get her way one way or the other. So if you do the work now, then it doesn't have to be forced on you later by something really crazy. If you put it off all the way to the end, then God knows what we'll have to do in order to achieve that much growth in a short amount of time. Freaking monsters pouring out of portals or something. I don't know.
What do you think of this? You like it?
Like, it's not like that stuff isn't in the books. It's even in the Bible. But for the love of all that's holy, stop buying into this political bullshit. I know sometimes they can sell you things that look really, really good. It's like, well, I remember how it used to be and it was really good then. Maybe we'll get back to that way. They're playing a plan on a much higher level. They think years in advance. Years in advance. Like right when they're about to break you, that's when they offer you what you think you want. And that was one of the first things I kind of intuitively said back around the 13th or 14th or something like that. And she was like, what were you supposed to see about yourself from that assassination debacle that was so weird? It was like most people have put all their hope, faith, like that, like he's been built up to be your last hope. So what if that was taken away? Then how would you feel? Trump is not supposed to be your last hope. She is. Christ is. The Father is. Your Savior isn't going to come out of the world. It's within you. I've always said it's like you're inside out and upside down. It's like taking a small trash bag and pulling it inside out. What you're looking at in front of you is like the bottom of the garbage bag. Where you want to get to is not in front of you. It's behind you and inside you. It's always the opposite. It's kind of like, you know, hey, if I asked you which way's heaven, most people would be like, it's up. And I would be like, no, it's in. It's in. In and down. Not out and up. So I think that's enough for right now. I miss the old days where we just talked about, you know, unlocking Lumen and all the fun things she does. But we're in this time frame, and we're in the place where we do the hard work. And we are busting our asses to try and help people ahead of time before it gets to that point. So I don't usually put links and pepper stuff all over the place, but you know, it'd be nice to get some help in return, because there's no one helping me. So we have all sorts of stuff that we can offer. I'm going to try and put some more stuff on the store, but I have stuff, if you just contact me and talk to me, and we can find something for you, even if it's not listed. I do think I'm going to make some more Aegis pendants, just because of the time that we're in. It just keeps coming up. But also, you know, the Aegis pendants are more specifically tuned to knocking out negative energy. But as I detailed in other videos recently, the negative stuff doesn't like that divine energy, period. That's why once it started going into my work, like a lot of my old clients just vanished. Probably because they weren't tuned high enough for that. They're like, something within them is like, no, we're not doing divine energy. So one thing that we can do is, regardless of what pendant that it is, because it's all going to have her divine energy in it, is we can add the Benedict metal to anything. Because that's kind of like the program that's kind of like the main program. And then we also use like the 72 names. There's certain 72 names of God that we combine, certain type of crystals that we combine, whichever. You want to get the negative stuff out of you, out of your head, and you want to shield and repel anything external to you. And then from within that space, you have a better chance at reaching her. So it works best if you just ask questions, so you can reach out at any time. Okay, our Etsy store is clumencreations.etsy.com. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.